Catherine, thank you very much for giving us your time for this interview. One of the beauties, one of the privileges of having someone like you is that you need no introduction.
Okay? Thank you very much.
So, and those who don't know you, pour them. Okay?
Yeah,
of course it is true. So, the very first question is, what do Richard Wagner's music means to you? How did you come to Wagner? Did you always want to be an opera singer of Wagner's works?
Absolutely not. Well, I remember I went for my first singing lessons, and I said I wanted to learn how to sing properly, but I didn't want to be an opera singer, and I never wanted to sing Wagner. Way too long, the operas. So, and that was my first singing lesson. But when I got to have lessons with the teacher, who is the reason I'm here now, her name was Pam Cook, and I had 20 years. I had the fortune of having lessons with her for about 20 years, actually, because she passed away in 2013, just before I was doing the ring here. So when I first went to her, you see, I had a very bad technique, and it was developing in the region of Joan Sutherland. So I was coloratura, I was doing Donizetti, Rossini, I was doing all of those operas. And she was never 100% sure that's where I would be, but she always said, you should sing for where you are now, not for where you think you're going to be. Let the voice be. And I went round a lot in Britain after I'd studied in Birmingham and Manchester, and I was at the Opera Studio in London, and I was still doing all of the coloratura things, Verdi coloratura, everything there. I was not training as a Wagner singer at all. And they were all singing because I could do the coloratura. So Queen of the Night was my first professional role. And there was no work. Britain is not an area that you can actually really, unless you're in the very lucky, I mean, I hate to say the word lucky, it just, I think fate has a lot to do with it, but it's very reduced, eingeschränkt, I suppose the German term. There's not a lot of opportunities there. The big professional places are, you've got English National Opera, which of course is closing now. You've got Welsh National Opera North, Scottish Opera, and the Royal Opera House, of course. Here in Germany, every big city has an opera house, and I never knew about the opera world here. And Pam said to me she'd got a student who just got in the Fest contract, so I just thought, right, I need experience, I need to go. I went to the library, I wrote out 100 applications, did a CD, posted them all off, and I got 3 interviews from that 100 with agents, and I came over, and one of those agents sent me to Weimar, and luckily I was listened to by George Alexander Albrecht.
Okay.
And one of my arias, because of course soprano arias are interminably long, so I did Dich teure Halle, Pam's recommendation, short, 3.5 minutes long. She said, take it in, and I sang Dich teure Halle for them, and he just engaged me on the spot. He was doing Tannhäuser as his last piece before retiring in 2002, and he gave me the opportunity, and somebody said, but she doesn't speak German. He said, oh, she'll learn. So I said, so that was it.
You sure did.
And that was in September. I got married in August 2000. September, I came over and did all of this in 2000, and then in May 2001 I moved to Weimar, and that was it. So,
ever since.
Yeah, and I ended up staying there for 10 years. Developed through. I started with Erste Dame in Zauberflöte, I did Mimi, I did Tannhäuser, I did Fidelio, I did Trovatori, I did Abigail, and then the voice just kept getting bigger and bigger as it was used. I didn't make it into anything. Originally I was planned for Freya, Sieglinde, Gudrun, and Brünnhilde in Siegfried.
Yeah. And
then he just kept saying, thing is, Catherine, if you're doing Sieglinde, who's going to do the Brünnhilde? So then I said, okay, I went and had a look, and that's how I got into the Brünnhilde. And that was 5 years after standing on the stage, really. So I started 2001, 6 I suppose, but the premiere was 17th of April 2007 for Walküre. But it was great because I did Friar in the Rheingold, so I've sung in all the pieces, yeah.
Wonderful. Just an interesting comment on you, not looking down upon any country, but you were mentioning the rather limited opportunities. I came across this information a couple of years back, that Germany has 16 Bundesländer, 16 states.
Yeah.
The state of North Rhine-Westphalia, where I live, has more opera houses than the whole of the United States of America.
Wow.
That can tell you a little bit of how, I couldn't say spoiled, how privileged we are to have so many possibilities to have access to this wonderful world of opera.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, the thing is, it's developed, the way it developed through in Germany is that, you had all these small principalities and they all wanted their own theatre, so they built them. And so we're talking of a tradition that's way over 200-300 years old. I mean, you look at Weimar, it's the oldest orchestra in Germany, and that of course was it's all come from Goethe. It's come through from Goethe and Schiller from the 1700s, and it's just developed. And the same here with the Markgräfin Opera House.
Absolutely.
And it was something that they did. They really appreciated, and they wanted somewhere to go. Whereas in Britain, it was done in the actual houses. It wasn't done in a separate opera house. So I suppose if you look at history, that's how it's all developed.
Right.
And it's something I think should be treasured and looked after.
And Franz Liszt in Weimar, making the very first premiere of Lohengrin many years back. It's wonderful. Catherine, is there any favorite opera or drama, if I make the distinction between the earlier works of Richard Wagner and the dramas that came afterward, Ring of the Nibelung, Twilight of the Gods, etc., and Tristan and Isolde, which is what you feel particularly identified with, or any role of those?
Really easily, no.
Okay.
I love it all.
Okay.
I don't know some of the works. Parsifal I find quite difficult, but that's for me. I mean, I haven't really gone into Parsifal. I've studied the Lohengrin. If you listen to the music from Lohengrin, is just stunning. I mean, I love just going into the text and the Ring. I mean, you can't beat the text for the Ring. I mean, he spent so long on it, and for Tristan and Isolde as well, there's many things. Tristan happens to be the hardest one I've ever learned, because she's just repeating it, and it's the same thing repeated. And I think if you think about the human psychology of things, then that's what people, when they really don't understand a situation or they can't come to terms with a situation,
absolutely,
they just keep talking about it. I think it's also a very female thing. If you see ladies who they have problems, and have you ever read Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus? If a guy supposedly comes and talks to you, they're looking for a solution. Whereas if a woman comes to talk to you about things, they just talk it all out, and then they carry on and do it to carry on, and but they're going to have coffee with one friend and they'll tell that friend all about it. Then they'll go and have coffee with another friend and they'll tell that friend the same story all over again. And so it just keeps getting repeated. But I suppose, men and women do the same thing. But it is a human psychology. So that's a little bit what Tristan is like. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, if I'm not wrong here, he was going through his Schopenhauer phase as well. So he was trying to transcend into something above what was earthly, if you like. But he's just had this genius of marrying both together anyway. So whichever's the favourite, I suppose the favourite is what I'm doing at that moment in time. So at the moment it is Isolde and Brünnhilde.
Good point. Mm-hmm. Very good point. What did you find the most rewarding fact about performing Wagner's music? What would be rewarding to you mostly?
What's the most rewarding thing?
For you on a personal base.
It just takes you on such a high. You stand there and you just, when you're driving, and you're listening to some music, and you're just transported into this world. I mean, the sun is shining, you're going wherever, you're on the motorway, and you just have some music on in the car, and you just transcend yourself as you're driving. It's that plus on the stage. And and you go with the orchestra, and it really is, it's just on waves. This music, this wonderful music that you sit the voice and you go, it's just a journey. That's for me what's beautiful.
One topic I addressed, by the way, for everyone watching this video, we are at the Festspiel house in Bayreuth in 2023. Something amazing, in this festival of this year, on August the 10th, you sang Brünnhilde. For many, a killer role in the Twilight of the Gods. And then a feat on August 13th, in other words, 3 days later, you sang Isolde, I Saw You. By many, the Mount Everest for a soprano. That's stamina. How do you manage that?
I don't know really. I mean, people have always said I've got so much stamina, and I've never really thought of it as stamina. You just get on with it. So.
But that's a feat.
It is a feat, and it's a huge feat. And I've always said for myself, a role is my role if I can sing it twice in one day. So if I can really sing a role twice in one day, then it's a role for me. And it is true, I can sing everything twice in one day, from Elektra through all of my roles, I can sing them twice. Because I come here, I start at 10:30 in the morning, and I sing it through in the morning before I sing it in the evening. The voice, of course, gets tired, and really there should be about 3 days between, but the way we've done it now is I did the Götterdämmerung, had 2 days, and then the Isolde, but now I have a week off, so there's no singing really till the Walküre next week.
Okay.
And it is, how do I do it, is pacing. I have to see, so the sacrifice, if I like, I'm very gregarious, I love people, I like meeting people, and I've had a lot of requests to go and have coffees, to go and have lunch, to meet, and it's one of the things I love about here. But doing the Brünnhilde and the Isolde, I've had to say no, because people have come to see these things, and they deserve the best from me that they can get, which means I have to be quiet. I have to choose what I do. And until you actually do these roles, until you actually are there performing them, you don't really realise how tiring it is. To me, when I get sick, that's when I realise just how much energy, just how much power I need to sing this repertoire, which is a lot. And it's like a marathon. You can't run a marathon by sitting on your backside for 2 or 3 weeks and then deciding you're going to stand up. So I go walking, so it's a balance between resting, not talking too much, choose when to talk, choose when not to talk.
Okay.
I'm a talker, so I stay home and I don't telephone. And that's how I deal with it, because when I'm out, I talk. So, and that's me.
But talking about music, something happens to me very often. When I go to the opera, Wagner's particularly, his music follows me for quite a long time.
Yes.
I saw you in Dresden and Isolde, and I still have the music in my mind. I don't know what I would do if I had to face a total different work. How do you manage it? Because if you sang Twilight of the Gods, certainly the music has to be inside of you.
Yes.
And then a couple of days later, you have something which is so different, like any Wagner's dramas. They're so different from one another. How do you manage that?
Well, the thing is, to me it's like a cupboard. It's got lots of drawers.
Okay.
So naturally, if I've just done a performance, when I come down and I literally just come down to peace and quiet, that is in my head. So the only way for me to get that out is I have to start reciting the next one that's coming. So Tristan and Isolde, from the day after Götterdämmerung, I start reciting Tristan and Isolde in my head. Because you don't have to sing it all the time, you just have to recite the words and the music in your head. And then the next day I went for a walk with the dogs for over an hour, and I had the music and I'm reciting it in my head to get that music, to take it out from the second shelf or third shelf and put it in the top shelf. So you have to take it out. It's focus, isn't it? It's concentration.
Yeah.
And if, for example, I have a whole list of things I've got to sort out when I get home, but they have to go. So I have to compartmentalize. This will be for this time. So taxes, we all love taxes. So they're going to be done after the Bayreuth is finished. Because otherwise, if you take your focus in this direction or you take your focus in that direction, which is why a little bit, it's very nice to meet people, but I have to be very careful how and when. And this year I haven't been out for meals after only twice after the performances because and the other thing I can't do is drink alcohol. I like alcohol, but I can't drink it. My voice doesn't like it.
Your voice. Tell me something. You speak fluent German. It is not very often that you can find singers who have other languages as native language, like English, or Spanish, or whatever, but you can be understood as well. And this is something that Wagner paid a lot of attention. Question is, we know Wagner wrote his own texts for the operas and was very keen on his German, which is not any German. It's a very special one.
It was difficult.
Was it?
Yes, well, because you're trying to memorize. But what's been fascinating for me is I've been doing this since 2006-07. Well, I've been doing the German, but the Ring German I've been studying and looking at. And when I look back, and I have a great translation that I've done, and I'm reading the translation. I'm thinking, no, it doesn't mean that at all. It means this, and I go back and I still have to go back and look, because even Germans who are mother tongue, they don't understand the language either.
Fully agree. Yes.
And it is extraordinarily difficult, but I love singing in German. You can do so much with it. There's so many colours you can get out of it. You can really, is today going to be, if I'm coming here and somebody's ticked me off and I've had a bad experience or I haven't slept very well, then I'm going to feel A, B or C. So, and I bring that into the text, you see, or I have a different person opposite me for Wotan, for example, because it's words, and many people, you can sit there around a table, somebody can say something and it will be interpreted totally different. Have you had that experience when you're typing to somebody and you've got a way of thinking and you're thinking blah 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 and you type it all out and you send the text and then they write back to you and you think, no, that's not what I meant, that's not what I said, and you read your text back and you think, oh yeah, well it could be interpreted that way. And that's how we need to approach the text from Wagner. I had a very good German teacher for German. That's not my singing teacher. She lives in Weimar, and she was an actress that spoke on the radio. She's about 96 and 97 now. And when I went to do Centre, was my second piece, they asked me to go to see her because my German wasn't very good at the time, so we were talking 2003. And when I got to her, it was okay. I kind of spoke German, but not very well. And she just said to me, oh, okay, Catherine, right. Yes, there are many vowels in German, and she only spoke German, she spoke no English. And she said, but for singing, we only use 5. And I said, okay. And so we did the A, E, I, O, and she did this. And later I said to her, there's 5 vowels. Yes. I said, why? She said, it was such a mess. I had to start somewhere, so I gave you 5 vowels to get right. And she said, by the time you sang Centre, yes, she said your German was the best, one of the best on stage, because she purified the vowels I was doing. Instead of me trying to learn all the vowels of the German repertoire, she honed it down to things and got those, and then from that basis we then spread sideways. And I thought that was always very interesting. And that's how I was taught for my singing lesson. She'd strip my voice right down, and we went right down to basics. And if you think about it, for anything, any aspect of life, if you have the grounding for anything in concrete and not in sand, because we live in a time where everything has to be at speed, everything's fast, everything's disposable. And what we've lost is the value of something that it takes time to learn. And singing, I'm afraid, takes years. Pam always said to me, you get a grounding in singing after 7 years of things. She said, 14, then you're starting to know about singing. After 14 years. And that was so right. When I got to 14 years, I realised what she was talking about, you know.
She had experience.
Yeah, fantastic. What she didn't know about the technique, you could write on a postage stamp, you know. And this is, and so I was very lucky to find Frau Vollung, who did the same with the language for me. She literally stripped it right down and said, this is how you pronounce it. And that's how, you know, I can only be as good as I am on the day that I sing. If there's going to be mistakes, and I'm always aware of my mistakes, I'm always aware of what I'm going to do. So then for the next show, I will work on that, and I will work on the next bit. One of the things here, particularly, is singing behind the beat, to schlepp, because the German orchestras play behind the beat, and in Bayreuth you have to sing even further behind the beat. So that is also experience. Delay, right. Some get it straight away, some don't. Why with certain passages can I learn it within 2 or 3 times going through, and I've learnt it like that. Other passages of texts takes weeks. So just, ze tritt die Traute, ze trümmere die Meide des Leibessport, zerstöre dein Speer. Yeah, so that was a long time. And you just keep repeating and repeating. And you know, it's like, Dad, just take your spear, and if you don't like what I'm saying, stab me. So, you know, it's like, you know, that's a basic thing.
How very interesting, because I heard just one comment on that. A German singer, a very fantastic one, who said and admitted, we think that because we are German and we speak German as a mother language, we can manage German when we sing. Wrong. We take it for granted, but this is not right. We also have to train ourselves. Yes. And this is very true. Now, talking about the language, one question that I think you can give us some insights, prompters. How important are these people in your performances, and not only giving you the words or the syllables when you're singing, but also during the rehearsals? How important can they be for you?
They are very important, because what is very underestimated is that we don't just stand there and sing. We have no notes, so the learning comes through in different phases. So first of all, you learn the notes, you then learn the language that goes with it, the text that goes with it. Then you have to leave the paper, so of course you keep falling over it when you're leaving the paper. But when you get to rehearsal, it has to be so in the system that you can actually start taking a part of your mind. Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go straight on? And so a prompter will help you to keep jogging your memory. It's not that you don't know it. It's just that you've got other things going on in your mind. And if you think about it, the orchestra will always have their music in front of them, and they've got somebody conducting. And it always makes me laugh, because when you have members of the orchestra behind the scenes and having to play off stage, they have their music, a monitor, and they have their own conductor, plus the conductor outside. So they are looked after now. Singers, we're on stage dealing with going up and down stairs, round the back, fighting round chairs, your costumes. You might have other people, you're standing in the right place. Do I stand over here? But you should have had it memorized. We are musicians ourselves. So having a prompter there helping us and looking after us. Why I always say, because I so appreciate them. It's not because I don't know the role. It's because they help me be the best I can be. And that's so not appreciated. It also means that the conductor doesn't have to keep looking after us on stage as much. It takes a portion of away. They've got enough going on with the orchestra, and so we then have the prompter to help us be the best we can be. And what I've noticed this time is that I can really, there are things suddenly, or you've tripped over your dress, or you've stumbled somewhere and you've missed the downbeat where you count. Right. And if you miss that downbeat, or there's a monitor that suddenly starts turning, and that is the monitor that you've educated, that's where you look, and then suddenly the monitor's turning because the picture's gone off. Or it's happened to me in performances before where the monitors don't come on at all, and so you're blind and things. So they help to keep the performances going, because that they don't, and that's very, very underestimated what they do. That was the reason why I wanted to know your opinion on that, because it is definitely underestimated. They are nearly conductors on their own right, because they are also following the whole thing. Fantastic. And the concentration they have to do. I mean, they sit there for the whole opera, and they also have to know the quirks of all the singers. Where we go, they have to mark, where they're wrong. If you are not a mother tongue German, for example, I have to hear der, die, das, dem and things, because it triggers me into the next word. Absolutely. Whereas a mother tongue speaking German will know that it's der, die, das. I don't, and it's what triggers me in. So that's all these things, and how they do it, whether they're quiet, whether they're before the beat. It's a really specialised job, and it's very difficult. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Another question. It has to do with language as well. It is known that there is a relationship between the sound of Wagner's music and the words in his text. Can you hear that, this sort of relationship, that the sound of the words in German matches also the sound of the music? Never really thought about it like that, because he has these leitmotifs and... Right, but certain words match sometimes the music. But that's the same with any conductor, with any composition, with Verdi and Turandot, and because if you have a composer, you're composing to the words that you've written, but for the sound, that one I've not heard about. Because I've seen, for example, translations into English, from, say, Twilight of the Gods, and I've seen that the translators are very keen in trying to find words that sound like in German, not only to make a rhyme, but also to match somehow the sound. I don't think it's more the sound, I think it's the vowels for the singer. Because when they wrote this stuff, and especially they wrote the vowels for the singing technique. Okay. And that would be where they go, so, it would be, that would be more to do, not to do with so much the sound of what is coming out, but... and no, I don't ever want to sing Wagner in any other language, because it doesn't match. And if you go, you're calling it sound, but I would say it's to do with the technique and the line. Okay. It's more to do with the line of how things go. So if you are trying to put more syllables and the translation, I think that's why they try very hard to keep it the same, is to do with the vocal line. Interesting, because, for example, there was this one translation when Hagen says, "Der Ring muss ich haben," and the English translation was, "The ring must be Hagen's." In other words, matches very well. Exactly. It's not the sound; it's the vowels. That's an interesting point. It's the vowels. Well, wonderful. Would you say that translating Richard Wagner's operas into English would make that more accessible to English-speaking public? Of course, yeah. I mean, Wagner is just an experience of the sheer sound, where it takes you emotionally. Strauss is the same. It's this huge orchestra, but if you actually understand what's going on as well, then I think it adds an extra layer. So there are so many layers to peel back in Wagner, so many layers. You know, why when you're talking about the love and then you have the death or whatever, you know, there's this rumbling going on of fate or something in the music, you know, it's all so cleverly put together. Yeah.
Talking about performances, there's this one question that really interests me is concert performances. How do you feel with that? I mean, when you have no costumes, you have no staging, just you on stage singing Wagner operas. So you have a full orchestra behind you, and you are just there without.
It's fabulous.
You like it?
It's pure.
Okay, give us your.
It's just. I love the concepts. I love the ideas of acting on the stage. But I've just done the Ring Cycle with Janowski in Dresden, and the audience just went wild for it. And what I can do is, I'm not actually having to add a layer of what somebody else's interpretation is. I'm literally doing the music and the text as I feel on that day. And the same with Elektra, because people think that Elektra is very difficult. But I am Elektra, I am Brünnhilde, I am these people. When I stand there as a concert, I am that person, and it's literally, and that it's like a story, it's a monologue, it's like telling a story. And it's what you do with the words, it's what you do with the, so you get the pure sound. Yes. You don't, that's not saying that I want everything to be that way all the time.
No,
it's a variant, it's a different idea of it. But if you have somebody who understands the text, who understands the music, and you just go away, it's quite magical as well.
I was, for example, 1 or 2 years back, I can't remember exactly, here in Bayreuth. My son and myself, we were at Parsifals in a concert performance with Christian Thielemann. And he admitted in an interview that he was rather skeptical about the outcome. And he said it was absolutely sensational. Nothing except a few things on stage, and that it was beautiful. I appreciate them as well. I've seen the Ring in concert performances, and I was just taken away. It was sensational. So I fully agree with you. One more question.
But don't you think that's the genius of Wagner? He doesn't need any trimmings.
Bingo.
It's you know, it's
the drama's in the music.
The drama's in the music, the drama's in the text, and the thing is that so then you put it on. But that's not saying we don't put it on, because he intended it to be a play with music. So that's what he intended.
Right.
So yeah.
And now, since we talked about the concert performances, let's talk about the creativity, the fantasy of directors, scene directors. Regie theater. It's a very controversial topic in our times. And could you share your view on this? I mean, this Regie theater, in which we have situations where the regisseur goes sometimes very far away from the original idea. And talking specifically about Wagner, we have a Ring right now going on, which is very different of what probably most of the conservative people would expect. What's your view on this?
Well, I'm quite fascinated why they call it German Regie, because actually if you go to any theatre in the world, you have a concept, it's a Regie. That's why you engage a director. So if you're not going to do concerts and you're going to put it on in a theatre with costumes, you have a Regie, you have a concept.
Of course, yeah.
And so this thing about being German, whether it's because things, and so I think what I love about this Ring in comparison to anything else is that Valentin wanted to take the words and bring them to today on how would people react to this text that's written today.
That's the point. Yeah.
And not just how this text would be interpreted, what we assume 100 years ago. So for me as an opera singer, it's my responsibility to understand the concept and deliver it from the stage. If I don't want to do that, then I have no business being on the stage. I can have my opinion, and all I say is that the director, I have to understand what the director wants. Or I can't deliver it. Because
Absolutely.
if I don't understand it, how can I pass it over? Some concepts are to do with movements. They want movements. So, for example, there was one ring I did, and it was to do with, there was a lot of wood on the floor. The audience may not have picked this up, but if I was in agreement with Wotan, I would stand the way the wood was cut. And if I was in disagreement, I stood against the way that, so you wouldn't pick that up from the audience, but it was just this thing there, and there was a lot of semaphore in it. So it's one person's idea of what that means to them. Mm-hmm. What does this mean? And yeah, some people go really weird, very strange, go a long way from what the text is. I think so far, I don't think there's probably been one, possibly two that I've had difficulty, but one definitely I had difficulty, really had difficulty, which I just thought was so bizarre. It was very, very hard to bring it off the stage because it just was nonsense to me. I just couldn't make it work, and I tried so hard and kept asking, but it was sort of like chalk and cheese, really. But to say that's only happened once in 22 years, then that's not bad. Okay. So, yeah.
Very significant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you. It was really fantastic, and I'm pretty sure that everyone will enjoy this interview. We really appreciate it.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you.